Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to a custom replica version of Tiga243 Land NMX bikes. That, of course, is Tim Gajser. Tiga, as he's known, T-I-G-A, because it's Tim Gajser, T-I-M, and then G-A to begin his last name. This is a track that is in Slovenia, actually, where, of course, Tim Gajser is from. He opened this track, gosh, I don't know. It's been a few years now, I believe, and this facility is actually open for... I believe the public to like rent out for private days and stuff like that as well. But this is also, of course, a location in which Gajser himself actually trains. So the folks at Conceptgraff, I believe it was Gabriel, put this track together. It is not a like 100% exact replica of the facility because he put in some trees and some stuff that aren't there. But the track is supposed to be an exact 100% replica. So let's go ahead and spin some laps on this track, talk about it a little bit, and have some fun, shall we? So through the start gates right there, and then it's a right-hand first corner. And one thing about this track, and one thing with a lot of tracks, it seems like, in that area of the world, whether it's, you know, Slovenia or Hungary or some other places out there, man, it's kind of like hard, dry dirt, but it's a very fast racetrack in a sense. Like, this is maybe a bit of a slower track than some of the tracks I've seen Gajser himself actually ride and practice on. Like Dirt Park in Hungary is one that he's famous for having spun some laps on, and I think we've even done a track walk on that track. But man, some of the videos that he's done on those tracks, he is absolutely flying around those tracks. And of course, this being his home track, I can't imagine he'd be much slower on this track. But really kind of cool to see how, you know, I guess different or unique the tracks are in those parts of the world than you know, like a national track, for example. Like a little bit this track and the scenery and the environment in a real world scale, not necessarily for what this custom version of it is, reminds me a little bit of Locket in the Czech Republic, because it's kind of that area of the world. You know, Slovenia is a little bit closer to Italy, and a lot of people go to Trentino to watch Gajser race, but I feel like Locket kind of encapsulates a lot of what those tracks are like a little bit too, where they're mountainous, but they're very dry, hard packed, slick blue groove type of tracks. And I feel like from what I've seen of this track, this is a very similar track to that nature, very fast, high speed, slick, but it's still really, really well put together as a racetrack, in my opinion, where it goes through the hills, it has some tight corners, it has some big jumps, but it uses the terrain well and creates like a natural racetrack with some, you know, more modern features on it. Like I said, with the big jumps, got a big step up right here. You're going to come out of this corner, hit a big step down. It's got some big hay bales right there and stuff. This is that big step down. So, yeah, it ties together really well. Fun, fast, flowy, and does some good things for what I think a lot of players like playing this game for, which is, you know, big jumps. So you can toss out a few big whipper tails and stuff like that. Always a good time. But as for this actual track and the build that Gabriel did, Conceptgraff, really well put together. I do feel like, judging by the Google Maps version of this track that I've seen, it's not exactly a perfect rendition of the track. Like, maybe some of the corners are a little bit off and so on and so forth, but maybe he has a little bit more updated version. Like maybe he used Earth or 3D maps or something like that to get a little better version of this track. Ooh, didn't realize it was in first gear. Almost looped out. So maybe I'm just looking at it wrong, but I do feel like a few of these corners are a little bit more like opened up and spread out, and the track itself is a little bit more twisty and turny than it is like straight turn, straight turn, straight turn. So that could just be my own dumb research, or maybe it just is, you know, he built it a specific way that makes it flow a little bit better for the game. I don't know. But he does say it is an exact replica, and aside from the few like nuanced details of maybe some turns being just a little slightly off from what I see, the rest of the track looks perfect, dead on. Even from the GoPro videos that I've seen, the jumps are in the right places, the corners are mostly angled the correct way to get to those jumps as well. Ooh, that was a greasy little scrub up that hill. And the flow of the track as well does mimic it quite well, going in and out of these valleys and up the hills and so on and so forth. So really well done to, you know, take all of those things together and make a good, complete replica track. Because sometimes when you have these tracks that are, you know, Tim Gajser's obviously a big deal, so there's going to be GoPros and footage of him riding this track. But sometimes you take a track like this, which is a little bit off the beaten path, it's not a known racetrack, there's not races at it necessarily, and try to build it, and it's really difficult to find the right images and scaling and people that have actually been there that can tell you more about it and stuff like that. So I think that this is a perfectly good rendition of it because he's done a good job of tying everything together really well. Even if it's not exactly the right jumps or exactly the right turns, it still flows together tremendously. It rides really well. It's fun and easy to get the hang of. I think like the first lap I was doing a lap on this track, I hit all the jumps pretty smoothly, no problem, because he's built it in a way that like you come out of a corner and as long as you're shifting through the gears good and carrying good momentum, you're going to clear pretty much everything. You're not going to have much problem getting over these triples. You're not going to have much problem, coming out of a corner and getting a step up right or something. There are a couple jumps that I feel like are kind of fun because they're not easy to get, especially for someone of my skill set, but I like that aspect of it too, where it's not just all like long straightaway and big whip jump. Like some people may like that. I personally, being a more like motocross realist fan, like seeing tracks that have some challenging jumps on it and some stuff that's not the easiest to get right, like this right here. I like this little like pop-up step up to get to this inside rut right here. It's not like you're whipping off of it, you're just trying to hook that inside rut clean. You come back down this hill, get on the brakes through some tricky braking bumps, try to hook a good rut. We're not going to get it too good, but let's see if we can still pop this double. This little double on the left side of the track is so tricky, and if you come up short, you can just lose all your drive. The right side of the track is like a little single jump, but if you don't get that right as well, then you mess it up as well. So options makes it a little bit more unique to try to think about your line selection, so you're not just flowing from inside out in every corner. And I feel like most of the lines anyway, even if you do take like a new line, like I haven't taken that line the entire time, come out of this corner, shift up to third, even pop a little scrub, and we still get right over that step up, no problem. And I'm on a 250, so even on a 450, a lot of this stuff would be easier if you're a little bit more comfortable playing this game on a 450, or maybe you play this game on like a 252 stroke, which is obviously going to have a little bit more top speed than this 254 stroke. So I think overall it's a good complete version of this track that is not terribly difficult and pretty realistic in the sense that, you know, it's got some chop, it's got a lot of ruts, it's a pretty technical little track to get right. But if you do get it right and you do flow these corners, you get these ruts smoothly and hook up really well, whew, it's a lot of fun, that's for sure. So we're going to do a couple more laps, send you guys on your way. But if you guys have any more questions about this track, want to know more about the Tiga243 facility, I guess I could try to explain it a little bit better. But Tim Gajser himself has a video that they put out explaining what this facility is. Of course, Tim Gajser is actually from a very small, not super well-known motocross nation. It's not like there's oodles of noodles of tracks in Slovenia, because they don't even have a GP that goes to Slovenia, obviously. But there are some tracks. They're a little bit smaller. They're a little bit more compact in some sense that Gajser probably grew up riding and racing. And this facility, he bought this land, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, started building a track on it, turned it into this facility, which it is now, which is, it was initially meant as like his training facility. I remember seeing some track days of him and his now former teammate Mitch Evans out there doing some riding. And just another opportunity for a place to train for Gajser, because not many people have like their own fully fledged private facilities in Europe. It's not as common as it is in the US, at least, but it was cool that he had something for him and uniquely his that also gave back to his home nation and his home community as well, because then if you live in Slovenia, you can rent it out as a private facility, like I said, and trying to give back, which to me is pretty cool, because one cool thing about European nations and specifically Gajser's situation with Slovenia is that like they're a little bit smaller nations, which means they don't always have like superstars come out of it. It's not like you have just like Tom Brady after Tom Brady rolling out of Slovenia. And because of that, when you have a guy like Gajser, or in the Netherlands you have a guy like Hurlings or something along those lines, the nation really does get behind him. Like the public does, the governments do. Sometimes financially, but I more mean like supportive, like more of the nation saying like, hey, come out and celebrate, Tim Gajser Day or whatever. And then, Tim Gajser comes out, maybe it's his hometown, maybe it's a big town in Slovenia or whatever, and, get the public out there and share a little bit more pride for that nation, which is something that like in a bigger country like the US or, like even Germany or the UK or, some of those nations that have so many huge sports superstars, it becomes a little bit jaded when a guy like Ken Roczen comes out of Germany, and it's like, oh, that's cool for the nation, but most of the nation doesn't care because they have freaking Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel driving Formula One cars. Like, you don't have a Slovenian driver in MotoGP or F1 or whatever. So when someone comes through that nation, goes to MXGP, wins titles, puts the nation on the map a little bit, they obviously get behind them. They become a proud nation for that athlete. And I personally feel like it actually garners new motocross fans for that nation as well. So it's just one of those things that I love about the sport, specifically in Europe, but obviously with MXGP, like you have that like national pride more so behind your riders. And with Gajser, it's such a national pride because he is one of the few and maybe really first Slovenian high-level talents that they've had come through. And now they have, like Jan Pansar and stuff like that coming through in the MX2 class, and he's pretty good. He's not going to be Gajser's level, but he's still a very good rider, and another guy that gives the Slovenian nation something to cheer about. And like I said, I just personally think that's really cool to have like a full nation get behind an athlete like that, and then that athlete to then return to his nation and give back to them in a way. So cool little like connection, and spreading the love of motocross around the world that way, instead of just the superstars in the US or the UK or whatever. It's actually these little small nations as well producing incredible talent like a Tim Gajser, and then in a way building up their motocross repertoire with each other. So like that story. I think that's cool, and I like this facility. I think it's awesome of Gajser to again give back to his home nation as well, and not just be like, well, I'm a world-class motocross athlete now, I'll just buy space in France or Belgium or something like that and build my facility there. No, he built a facility at home, and try to keep it within the nation and within the family to a degree and stuff like that as well. So pretty cool. Love to see it. Also love to see this track end up in MX Bikes. Shout out to Conceptgraff and Gabriel for all the work that they have done making this a reality. And shout out to you guys for watching another video here on Start Your Systems. Like I said, if you have any more questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to hit me up in the comment section below. Happy to answer them for you. And be sure to subscribe and like as we work our way to 100K. Almost there. We're going to get there before long, I promise. But thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.